The Dingers podcast is on the air. I'm your host, Mitch. I'm here with the boys, Jeff, Kevin, and Jake. We're here to talk some Cubs baseball. They are coming off a 3-3 road trip to New York and then to Toronto. Had some good games, had some rough games. We're here to break it all down. Remember, we're live every Monday night on the On Tap Sports Network YouTube channel, so go check it out there. Also follow us on Twitter at Dinger Cubs, and go check out our new sponsor, Homage, where you can get some great apparel, great t-shirts. You go to homage.com/products or collections /Chicago Cubs. They have a great Chicago Cubs collection. They have a sweet NBA Jam or MLB Jam ripoff shirt. I got one of those.
Nice.
Not wearing it tonight, but I wore one of the 2 episodes ago. Sweet shirt, but they make some really high quality, great t-shirts. So go check them out.
I've got a Ryan Sandberg Tops shirt, which they still have. I've got it in white. I love it. The quality of the shirt is like super nice.
It feels like butter.
Nice. Yeah, it's like nice, lightweight. It fits well. Like some shirts fit too tight in the arms. I don't like that.
You're so buff. Buff.
Check me out. I've been hitting the gym. Not
Girls for days.
Yeah. No, super comfortable. I want to check out. They've got some like staples too, like their everyday staples, and they've got crew neck sweatshirts that have raglan sleeves. So instead of like the ring around, the shoulder, it's like a raglan, like a baseball tee fit. So I'm definitely gonna grab a couple of those this fall.
Yep. So
to the Dingers podcast where we talk textiles.
Yeah,
hey man, I'm a clothes nerd for sure.
We're boosting up the sponsor, so there we go. Let's jump in. Let's talk a little road trip. Cubs did go 3-3, lost 2 of 3 to the Mets. So let's start there. Especially coming off was a Wednesday game where they're right there to be able to tie it up in the 9th, had the bases loaded. Couldn't push a run across, maybe some questionable managing. We'll get into that a little bit down the road, but overall feeling about those are winnable games. We're playing the New York Mets. The Mets are going to Met, and we only got 1 out of 3. How are we feeling with that one? And then we'll get into the Toronto series. Let's start with you, Kevin.
I don't feel that bad. I'll put it that way. We went to New York, starting a road trip. Had Toronto coming up. Drew Smiley, unfortunately, just doesn't seem to have it right now. We talked about that last week, whether maybe maybe he's got the hurt pinky, needs to go on the IL for a little while, or goes to the bullpen for a bit. That's unfortunate. Taillon had that excellent start against Carlos Carrasco. We win that game. Then Hendricks comes out, gives you a good, we only scored 3 runs. I had to backtrack a little bit. I was going to say he only gave up 3 runs. That's not how that works. But I thought he pitched pretty well. That was the oh my gosh, I'm losing words. The series where I was sitting there going, why are we pitching to Pete Alonso? Like just walk him, give him a free base, move on to the lineup. However, I didn't think it was a bad series. Kind of some weird things. David Ross really wants to bunt late in the game. I think he's really trying to find that groove. Seems to be his shtick. Kind of an old school guy. It's an old school approach. It's what I noticed, but I don't feel bad about it. What about you, Jeff?
Yeah, overall, I've been really happy with the Cubs play since the All-Star break. Second best record in the NL, third best in baseball overall. You're going to drop some games here and there, especially if with a comeback win like we had right before we left for New York. There's probably a little bit. You kind of got to plan for maybe a letdown game the next game, and of course it was. It was 11-2 drubbing. And yes, I don't know why we pitched to Pete Alonso, but we kept pitching to him. It happens. It's a game. What have we won? 18 out of the last 20, was it 26, 27? That's not bad. That's pretty good baseball. So just calm down. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think after the 11-2 drubbing, I didn't feel very good. Going into the Mets series, I thought for sure this was one that we could have swept. I'm not going to say we should have, but it felt like the makings for a sweep to start the road trip. And 11-2 was just abysmal. You don't really know where that comes from, but you figure, the next day, obviously we talk about Smiley. We've been talking about Smiley. Pete Alonso, that's really where that game came from. And it got out of hand pretty quickly. Game 2 was excellent. You got to win close games. I think that's one thing that we haven't really talked about. That was a huge narrative in the first half, was that we were losing all these 1-run games. Now it feels like we're coming out on the winning side of a lot of those games. And I think that was something that was talked about by, I don't know about by us or the National, but I heard people talking about like it's going to flip. And you're kind of seeing the same thing. Like the Marlins were winning a lot of 1-run games, and now they're kind of slipping. I don't know if they're losing 1-run games, but their record is they've not been playing as well in the second half as they were in the first half. So baseball is a way of evening itself out. So it was nice to see the one-run win in the second game of the series, and then of course a 1-run loss in the third game of the series. And yeah, I know we're going to get into it later in the episode about Ross's management. I don't. So it was first and second, no outs, and he pinch hit Madrigal. Is that the situation, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think if you're going to pinch hit Madrigal, you let him swing away. The bunt did what it was supposed to do. It advanced the runners. You've got one out, and then what? Nico, I think, was up. Was it Nico or Morel that was up? I just had the box
I think it was
up.
Morel.
Well, it was Morel after
Morel.
Madrigal.
Yeah.
Yes. So Morel struck out looking. I can't remember. It was not a great.
Yeah, he
at-bat.
struck out looking on. He was looking curveball, and it was a fastball.
And it was a fastball right down the middle. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I mean, to set up runners in scoring position. You've got 2 runners in scoring position, 1 away with the top of the order coming up. I don't think it's a terrible decision. I think there's a risk of Madrigal hitting into a double play because he hits the ball on the ground over half the time, even though he does have a very solid line drive rate. It's like, which risk do you take there? And there's also, you take into account, like, yeah, Madrigal's running better this season. So how hard is he going to hit it on the ground? Flip a coin. Who knows? Can he beat it out with his wheels? Again, flip a coin. With a bunt, Madrigal's, I think, a better bunter. There's no really statistic out there. I don't know what, there's probably a sack bunt success metric out there somewhere. But again, Madrigal feels like a guy who can handle the bat, right? So clearly he advanced the runners. You get the top of the order set up, and the top of the order just can't come through. Nico walking to load the bases was kind of like, okay, great. This game is still ours for the taking. But then Hap went up there and just looked lost, man. I don't.
He couldn't even step into one.
Well, and that's kind of probably what the Mets wanted. I mean, the Mets match up. That's why they walked Horner to get to Hap, because they liked that matchup.
It was a competitive at bat, I think. They were fouled off, and
it was. And see, that's the thing. Like, you look, probably, I would say 90% of the managers in baseball would play for the tie there. Like that, like, one keeps the game going every day of the week, especially in that situation. When you have Madrigal, you brought it up, he hits it on the ground a ton. You're not going to want to hit into a double play. Use that guy who's a good contact guy to move that runner over. Now you're in play, base it, scores, and ties it up. And they have 2 more chances for that to happen. Like, me being a baseball coach, I would have done that same exact thing in that situation. The end of the game, why not? You have the top of the order coming up, exactly what you said. You would do that every day. And so for Ross to take the heat on that, that's where I think it's a little bit more where we're in a playoff hunt, and every pitch in every game means something to us now, which it feels good, but that's going to carry with it where we're going to be even more critical of these situations. And they are privy to a lot of things that we aren't as couch coaches trying to make decisions, that they have books in all the data at their fingertips, and they know a lot more. They're trying to play in. Yeah, you might not want Morel up there in that situation because he might strike out, but you know what? He might have hit a 2-run bomb and won the game for you. So like, you're gonna ride your guys, like, and that's something like I think that Ross does better than a lot of people, and especially of late, is he does a really good job of using data, but also like getting a feel for how his guys are performing and doing the right things, like sitting Seiya for a couple days until he gets his head right. Like, he reads people's body language. And I think earlier in that series, Morel hit a leadoff home run, right? Like, so it's like, you're going to, I would still go with Morel trying to, he's your RBI guy in that situation, to try to drive in some runs. And you have Horner, who's leading the team in RBIs. Plus you have Hap, who maybe I wouldn't have had Hap batting that high in the order, which we've talked about. I would rather have Hap down a little bit lower and had Bellinger in that hole. So it'd be Bellinger coming up instead of Hap. But
yeah, I mean, Hap or Scott says in the comments, can Hap please move down in the lineup? I think it's been called for a while now. Like, before the break, I think I sent out, like, I tweeted out before the deadline, I tweeted out my ideal lineup. And I think Hap was in like the 6 hole, 6 or 7. I can't remember like how it all shook out above, but yeah, like you said, Mitch, if Hap is batting 6th or 7th, then you probably got Bellinger batting 3rd, or Dansby batting 3rd.
Yep, Dansby moving up there.
Tell you what,
I just like, go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say that Scott deserves a diehard T-shirt.
He does.
He's with us every Monday night, and we appreciate it, Scott. Thanks for being here.
Yep.
always chiming in on Twitter too.
Yep.
It doesn't go.
Yeah, go give Scott a follow. Like, he's awesome.
Yeah.
It's Scott from Iowa, right? Is that your Twitter?
I think it is Scott from Iowa.
Yeah.
Is that it?
There we go. Scott C from Iowa. But obviously we would have loved to take 2 out of 3 from the Mets and then move to Toronto, which is a good team. Toronto is in a playoff hunt just like us. They're trying to get into the playoffs. I think they hold the last wild card spot currently in the AL, and we take 2 of 3 from them, who they're a really good offensive team, have some pretty decent pitching, and played a good series. Obviously it's Sunday. The Cubs decided this year that they want to lose every Sunday.
Suck on Sundays.
So if playoffs happen, we need to figure out how we can get some rainouts on Sundays. But we had another Taillon kind of iffy outing, along with Assad stellar outing. Jake wants to get in and talk a little bit about pitching depth, and we'll get into talking about Assad and Taillon in that discussion. But do we have the depth to be able to get us through these next, 42 games, and be able to get into the playoffs? That's going to be the question of, do we have enough pitching? We do have Stroman coming back on Wednesday, I hear. So that's good. Get another horse back in the stable. But do we have the arms, Jake?
I think the short answer is no. I don't think it's the bullpen. I think I trust the bullpen. I trust that there is depth there. We've talked about guys in the minors that we can bring up. I think Nick Birdie is going to be back at some point here soon. And so is, my goodness, Brandon Hughes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
From the knee surgery, because I don't know, he must have been, I don't know the details. It must have been like a meniscus thing, and he probably opted for the shorter surgery, the shorter rehab stint surgery. So I'm and Brad Boxberger, which he who knows what we're gonna get from. He's a mystery Boxberger. Sorry.
Hey, this entire
that
Cubs
good.
lineup is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Okay,
It's true, Jeff. It's true. But I do think you
nice Forrest Gump reference.
Yeah, I think at this point, I think we do know what we're going to get from the bullpen. I think the bullpen's been very good, generally speaking. I think the tough thing that we've seen, a little bit of inconsistency from Wisniewski. Obviously, not a great showing from Caleb Killian yesterday. I think Wisniewski was put in a tough spot in the Mets series, facing a couple of lefties who took him deep. That was difficult to watch. Ian and I have talked about it. He just thinks that Wisniewski does not have the confidence right now. It's tough to see because he had all the confidence in the world last season. So got to get that back somehow. So, yeah, but I bring those two guys up specifically because Killian and Wisniewski were guys who we expected down the stretch to get spot starts when guys needed days off, or if someone took or if multiple guys were on the IL at the same time. So in short, thank goodness for Assad, right? I think what he does still kind of scares me. He's not as overpowering as his fastball would suggest it should be. Because he can sit mid 90s, right? Like 94, 95. But it just is, he's a ground ball pitcher, doesn't really get a lot of swings and misses.
He only struck out one guy.
I know. Yeah. I think he got like four whiffs on, I don't know, whatever, like 80 some pitches probably, which is a very, very small percent and well below average. So it's kind of funny. Like I haven't looked at them side by side, but I kind of get the sense that Assad and Taillon are sort of doing the same thing. Taillon's getting some more strikeouts. So it's like, how is Taillon getting the poor results and Assad getting good results? Is it because Assad's had less exposure to lineups in terms of like how many times through he's getting? I'm getting kind of wordy here. Long story short, I'm worried about our pitching depth, specifically in the rotation. I think that's been a narrative all season long. Having Stroman come back is going to be telling. I think Smiley stays in the bullpen, Assad stays in the rotation. That's kind of a no-brainer at this point. I don't know. What say you guys? Are you guys concerned? Do you think they can?
Those are some very good points. And yeah, our pitching depth has been a concern all season. And what is odd is the pitchers that started hot at the beginning are now cooling off and struggling. Like Smiley was phenomenal in the beginning. Taillon's kind of struggled all season long, but he has strung together like
7 starts in a row, I think.
Yeah, that has just been, really high quality starts. And then he goes out to his home country and throws a clunker in front of 13 relatives. Shit happens, I guess. But Stroman's had a couple clunkers. He's been on the IL, but I think he's scheduled to start, Wednesday when he comes off the IL. So we'll see what happens there. It's a concern of mine as we make this playoff push, but we'll see what happens.
And we don't – the horses that we have up are the horses we're going to ride the rest of the season. Ben Brown isn't going to come up. Like he's not consistent enough down there. And I think he even went on like a 7-day IL stint just a little bit ago to take a day off or get an off day on his rotation. Like, so these are the guys, unless we call up K to fill in for a lefty in the bullpen, like for starters, this is who we're going to have to get through it with. Assad has been stellar. And like you comparing Assad and Taillon, they are very similar pitchers. They throw a lot of the same stuff. Assad is getting, I think, and we talked about a little bit, and I'm going to throw this little graphic up if you're watching on YouTube. The problem with Taillon, and what's happening is that four-seam fastball. Both of them work off the four-seam fastball to be able to control that bat. And what we saw yesterday was a lot of Taillon's four-seam fastball. You saw a lot of arm side run. And so he couldn't spot the fastball where he wanted it to. And you saw a lot of it like start either inside and tail out over the plate to righties, or he couldn't be able to get it away from the lefties like he should. Where Assad, his isn't tailing as much. He can spot that, and then he can use his curveball slider and off that pitch. Like the pitch to Varsho yesterday. We'll play this. It'll play. He left a pitch. He threw a four-seam fastball to Varsho, and Amayo was set up off the zone, like a good right on the outside corner. And you saw the pitch tail back in a good, he started it at the hip and it tailed back in right down Broadway. And Varsho hit a 3-run shot to put Toronto up big at that point. But that's what we're talking about, where because he couldn't get his spot, and he missed his spot and threw it inside, and then it tailed back out over the plate. Like, he couldn't work off that. And you watch a lot of the pitches from yesterday, especially inning 2 and 3 from Taillon. And then he wasn't spotting his fastball. And then he didn't want to go to Wisniewski right away because he didn't want to tax the bullpen. And so he made Taillon kind of work through it for 2 more innings and kind of struggle even more. And I don't know. That's where it's like, okay, you could create some more bad habits in that situation and not correct it, or maybe by using those innings, he could have corrected it. So that's where you don't know. But we needed a couple more innings. And then Wisniewski, I'm not confident in Wisniewski where he's at right now. I'm actually more confident in Killian than Wisniewski. But right now, I don't think any of them should get any high leverage situation out there. And that's what I think David Ross was feeling too. It's like, no, I'd rather ride Taillon and maybe he figures it out this next inning and get to like 6-2. That didn't happen. He gave up 2 more and got to 8, and then it was like done. But like, what are you going to do?
Right. Yeah. And is this the issue Taillon was dealing with at the beginning of the season? Like, was his arm side run the tailing of his fastball?
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought, because that had been what he'd said he tweaked and he fixed, and then he went on that string of like 7 good starts, and then now we have this. Hopefully, maybe it's something gets into a bullpen day and can figure it out. Something I keep hearing brought up at every 5 days, because that's when he starts, is Steele's already at his innings record
the most innings he's ever thrown. Yeah.
Right. So every start he makes, he's tacking on. And I was just thinking about it, like, interesting that he's hitting that now, but then again, he hasn't been a full-time starter. Or was he injured a bit last year? I
feel like he was injured around the All-Star break last year for like a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. It was just interesting. I was like, really, August, he's hitting he's setting his personal record, so to speak. And then I was trying to think, like, is that a bad thing? Is that's something every starting pitcher has to go through, right? Like,
it's a bad thing in the context of this, that it's happening this season,
right?
Because it's
we're gonna lean on him hard.
Yeah, he's been the workhorse, and we're talking about the lack of pitching depth. He needs to fill in. He needs to keep giving us the innings that he's been giving us for this team to be successful, and at least in his starts, right? And it's going to become an issue. Like, we're going to see fatigue set in because his body hasn't done this before. So that's why it's a problem. So it has to happen at some point. And I guess if next year's it's the year that we're more competitive, I guess you'd rather it happen this year that his body starts to make that adjustment, so that next year he is ready to shoulder a heavier workload.
It'd be nice if Marcus came back on Wednesday and had a great outing and was healthy and looked good. Then maybe you could do another split start with some bullpen guys and give Steele like an off day. Because do we play 16 games in 17 days or something coming up?
We do have we have off day today, and we have an off day. When is it? Thursday, I want to say Thursday. So we have 2 with the Sox, and then we have an off day Thursday, and then we play the Royals and then the Tigers. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, we should win all of these. There's no reason why we shouldn't beat these teams and beat these teams bad. The White Sox did not help us at all this weekend in losing 3 straight to the Brewers. So if we lose to the White Sox here, I'm going to be a little upset. It's a team that we should beat. Now going back to the Steele, I'm a little bit scared. We were talking about how we're short-handed, and where now we might have to lean on our starters to pick up some innings to save on our bullpen. I think that could happen to Steele. And I think it's happened this season some, where we've pitched him an extra inning when we could have went to the bullpen, but Ross just doesn't trust the bullpen arms enough, or they've been taxed. And so it's we can buy an inning here and let Steele go another one. And so hopefully that doesn't catch up with him down the road when we're in the last week and we're trying to make the playoffs and he just runs out of gas. I really don't want that to happen. So, but that's why it's 162. It's a grind. You got to get through it. And the team that can outlast right now is going to make the playoffs, going to get that last wild card, or going to win this division.
And to quickly answer the question about last season, he finished the season on the IL. I can't remember what the issue was, but yeah, he got put on the IL on September 5th, retroactive to September 2nd. He also spent a few days on the paternity list. So
that's right. That's what it was.
He probably got one fewer. He probably missed a start in July when his son was born. And then, missed the end of the season. I can't remember what the situation was.
Right forearm strain.
Yep.
He's lefty.
I'm just
you should have seen the looks on your faces.
That's your injuries there, Jeff.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, looking at the stats, he threw okay, so he's at 22 starts this season. He made 24 starts last season. He has thrown, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, he's thrown fewer pitches, more innings. And then, of course, everything else looks
more efficient.
Yeah, he's definitely been more efficient this season. It shows specifically by, his whip. His walks are down. So, yeah, his odds to win the Cy are like pretty high. He's in the top 5 ahead of Spencer Strider. So
somebody will screw him out of it. Stupid beat writers, anyway.
He'd have to go on an incredible stretch to finish the season to win the Cy. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be very, very cool. It'd be very, very cool. But it also shows, yes, Steele has been an obvious ace for the Cubs, but it also shows the state of pitching right now. And that Spencer Strider was 5th. This is from a podcast I was listening to. I can't remember. It might have been from yesterday. I can't remember when it was, but the odds had Strider 5th. And I guess right now he's pitching to the best K rate of any starter ever. But he's also had some big blow up games here and there throughout the season. But it's the state of pitching. Corbin Burns has been inconsistent. Sandy Alcantara has been inconsistent. So the Cubs are just lucky that Steele's just been a rock all season. And based on that, consistency. And I mean, he's got a 2.79 ERA. I don't know if he's still leading the NL with his ERA, but that wins you Cy Youngs, man. If you can be consistent and consistently very good, that's obviously the recipe. So that'll be an interesting thing to track in terms of individual awards down the stretch.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at even Iowa, Michael Rucker is down there. He could get called back up. Keegan Thompson is back with the Iowa Cubs. I haven't seen how well he's pitched as of late. I haven't read any tweets from Alex Cohen. So usually he's like,
I think I saw one tweet that it might have been like a week ago. Shortly after he came back, he had a good, like a 2-inning stretch where he struck out 3 across 2 innings. And then it was like, gave up a home run on the last batter he faced or something. Like, it was like, did really well, home run at the end, which hard to tell at Iowa.
Like Nick Birdie, that's one that we could see by the end of the season up and making a difference. I hope with this team. So let's get into Rossi talk. Is Ross I'm bringing this up because seen a lot of chatter on Twitter as of lately from other Cubs podcasts, from the fans in general, from our friend Ian. I'm wearing his shirt right now. I don't want to put him on blast, but he tweeted something out and I want to highlight it. I'm not to put him on blast, but said this team might play hard for Ross, but winning in spite of bad managerial decisions is hard to do. This team is talented, but not talented enough to win, talented enough to beat the other team's opposing manager and their own manager at times. So he took the gloves off, put the brass knuckles on. And I get it. Like there's times when Ross maybe makes the wrong decision. But where are you guys at? Is Ross a manager that is currently what he's done in his tenure so far with the Cubs? Do you have enough confidence that when playoffs hits that he's going to be a good game manager? Not only a game manager, but just a good manager in general to be able to help take them to the World Series or perform well in the playoffs. How confident are you? Jake.
I am not supremely confident this season. And I say that because Ross just he went from playing to an analyst for like a season and then front office advisor with the Cubs. And then he was hired to be manager. Like there were what, 2 years between him playing and Mitch just killed a fly. There were two seasons between him playing, or 3 seasons. Oh, he danced. We can't forget that he danced.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And at some point in there, he also got a divorce.
Yeah, that's sad. That still makes me sad. But let's put it in perspective. Joe Maddon was an excellent manager. And if you read, like I read The Cubs Way, the Tom Verducci book that came out right after the Cubs won the World Series.
Great book.
It's really good. It was I talked about it on the pod when I finished it. It was very interesting to read 5.5 years removed from the World Series. Is that right? Yeah. 6? We're almost 7 years removed from 2016. That is scary, you guys.
No, that doesn't. Nope.
Yeah. But
the 90s are only 10 years ago. It's fine.
Yeah. It was weird reading in hindsight because
there are kids that were conceived that night that are going to have their 7th birthday on November 2nd.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. Well, not November 2nd, but it'll, yeah.
No, they just had it. It's August 7th.
Oh, yes. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Math. We're a math pod, but the interesting thing reading about textiles. Yes, that's right. We're a textiles pod first, and a math pod second, baseball pod third. I love this wool hat. Get yourself a wool hat. Textiles. We're coming back. The point being, the Cubs Way talks a lot about Joe Maddon and everything that he had to go through before he became a major league manager. He had an incredible amount of experience, incredible mentors while he was a coach, while he was both a player and a coach. And, you know, he kind of knew that coaching was going to be he knew early on that coaching was going to be his key, like his ticket to continuing his life in baseball. So contrast that with Ross and the limited experience that he has. I mean, yes, sure, he was a catcher in Major League Baseball for a long time, won 3 World Series. I get that. Like, that's invaluable experience. But what Madden went through over 4 decades, like 4 decades in baseball at different levels, that's why Madden could make and we even questioned his decisions a lot of the time, right? I mean, specifically in Game 7. So my point being, I think that Ross is working out the kinks this season. He's finally got a team that he can count on to be competitive day in and day out. And yes, he's made some mistakes. This last Mets series, like we just talked about, he made a couple. But at least he's doing that now, what seems to be the beginning of this Cubs competitive window, so that if and when, hopefully when they go to the playoffs next season, he's ready. Like, he's ready to make these snap decisions. He's been there, he's got the experience, and he's we can trust that he will make, if not the right decision, at least, good decisions more frequently.
Yeah, for me, so I break it down. The good MLB manager needs to do kind of 5 things. They need to know their players. They need to put players in the best position to win. So that means putting them in the right position in the batting order, putting them in the right position out in the field, putting them in the right position. Seeing the big picture would be 3. So not only a lot of us as podcasters, and a lot of, if you're watching it on there, they're counting with me because they know I'm probably going to do 10 and I said 5, but I'm on 3 or 4. 3. So seeing the big picture, as media, as newspaper articles, as whatever, they live in the here and now. We live in the here and now a lot of times. And it's really easy for us to get super hot and have quick reactions and hot takes and not see the big picture of what he's trying to do. Like with morale this year, he's trying to foster morale and to be able to make sure that he is a good baseball player for the foreseeable future, not just the here and now. And then be super honest. Be super honest with the media, be super honest with the players, and have blunt conversations, and then to take the pressure off the players. So when things happen in the game, that he confronts it in the media, that anything that is happening that the players aren't answering for it, if there's mistakes going on, that he's the one that's answering it. And then the last one be preparation for the series of in-game and that day's game series of giving them all the steps, giving them all the information that they need. And when I look at those things, I think Ross encompasses all those things. Even in-game managing, I at least can understand sometimes when he's doing something that maybe I would disagree with, or that maybe I would do something different. Usually I understand it. Sometimes with the batting order, we have to understand we want the best 9 out there, all 162. That can't happen if you want to make the playoffs. That just can't. You're going to get guys hurt, or you're going to get guys burnt out, or sometimes they just need to take a mental rest day. You have no idea where they're at mentally or physically. And some I just need a day. I know we've talked about having Cody Bellinger bat higher in the order. Maybe Cody Bellinger's went to Ross and said, you know what? I really like batting in the 5, 6, 7 spot. I really like it there. I feel comfortable. So keep me there. We don't know. We aren't privy to those conversations. I don't know. And so I trust Ross and I like what he has done. Whether it's been perfect, no, it's not been perfect. No manager in the major leagues has been perfect. They just haven't. You talk about Joe Madden. We brought it up. Game 7, like we would have done something different. We still won the World Series. Like you can still win, and that's why he's part of the team. The team still needs to. He's going to put players out there in best position to win. They need to come through. He needed to get Jamer a day off, and he didn't want to put Bellinger at first base. So Wisdom was playing first base yesterday. Wisdom botched some balls. I wouldn't have put Wisdom there, but you know what? He trusted Wisdom enough, and Wisdom is a professional baseball player. He should be able to field some ground balls since he's a third baseman, regular position, and be able to make a play. You know, like that's where I'm at. It's like he's trying his best to like put them in the right position. It's sometimes just it's on the players to make the best play. And I feel like he's handled the bullpen really well this year. I feel like he's handled when people have struggled to be able to get them back. Like how Michael Fulmer's a good case. Like he's brought him back by putting him in different situations. He started out as our closer. Then he was our 8th inning guy. And then he brought him down like really low leverage situations. And then now he was a starter for one game. And then he was like the long guy. Like he's done everything, but he's done it all to be able to help Fulmer get back on track. Nick Madrigal, like, hey, he probably went to Nick Madrigal and said, hey, we want you to move over to third base because we think you can help this team with your bat. We need to find you a place. Like, I think there's a lot of things that we've missed in it. Get super hot and live and die, especially now that we're in a playoff race, and get super angry at little tiny decisions rather than see the big picture for what Ross does. Because I think he's a people person, and I think this team wants to play together, and they want to play together for him. Like I think he's really brought them all together, and it's a great clubhouse, and you need that.
That last point there, I'm going to jump in real quick because you brought up the great clubhouse, because that's what I was kind of keying on is if you're paying any attention to the South Side team and the dumpster fire that is going on there, Ross has that whole team clicking. They're working as a unit. They love playing with each other. If you ever see those dugout look-ins and whatnot, there was a day the other day where somebody was throwing a foul ball into the dugout or whatever, and Seiya tried to get it, and one of the other coaches took it away from him, and he was like, play pouting or whatever. Then they threw it back to him. He's like, yay, like they're having a good time in the dugout, even while Seiya was struggling. They were still clearly they're having conversations. He's keeping them both accountable and building them up because he knows it's 162. You got to go the whole way. Bellinger's also in a contract year. He doesn't want a first base contract. He wants a center field contract. He wants to get paid big, and he should. He's playing up to it right now. So I know you don't necessarily want to view him as a prima donna or a, I don't know. I always imagine wide receivers in the NFL. I doubt that is Bellinger's, mindset, but the guy wants to get paid, and it's his chance. So you throw Wisdom at first base because you also want to get Wisdom right too. Wisdom had some days off. It was time for his bat.
And he did get a home run.
Hey, yep. Gotta love it.
Because I guarantee we're going to need Wisdom down the stretch to pinch hit. There's going to be a spot where he's going to pinch hit. He's going to win us a game by hitting a home run late in the game. He's come up and pinch hit. Just like Ross, when he's plugged in Talkman at the right time for a pinch hit and hit a gapper and score the run. Like he's plugged in Talkman at the right side. Yes, I get that most fans want to see Talkman in there every day. It's just not where we're at. Like some days Seiya needs to get out there. We can't just sit Seiya on the bench. Like he's a valuable player on this team as well. Like that he's gonna help us win some games and getting him right. So like it's collective. He needs to get them all right. And I think he's done a good job doing that.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk, let's quickly hit on the Seiya resurgence here really quick. I mean, he got what, 4 days off, 3-4 days off out of the starting lineup.
Yep.
And he came back and he's been on a tear. And I think that, first of all, we talk about Belly too. That's the importance of having someone like Bellinger, the clubhouse. You got someone like Bellinger in the clubhouse. You got someone like Dansby in the clubhouse. If you got someone going hot, like Bellinger specifically, I believe Saya was quoted as saying that he talked to Bellinger about his swing,
and Swanson, because he was talking to Morel earlier, and apparently Saya was changing his pregame approach depending on the pitcher, and he was watching Swanson and talking to Morel, and Morel was kind of doing the same thing earlier in the season when he got off, and he told Saya, like, no, like, I'm just doing what Swanson and Belly do, and they do the same thing. Their routine is the same pregame, no matter who the pitcher is. And so Saya's like, oh, and I need to get back to who I am, not try to change who I am depending on the pitcher. And that's what veteran leadership does.
That's right. They talked about that on the broadcast, right? They broke that down on the broadcast. And let's hope that it pays off, because I do think that Saya can be an all-star caliber bat. I mean, take a second and watch his highlights in Japan, and oh my God, the dude, we've seen it. We've seen him go on tears. Hopefully this one lasts the remainder of the season. I would love to see Saya go out into the playoffs, just on a total heater. But I also I want to address really quick Omar's comment. Ian Happ is not an everyday player, and he is. Because defense, he's a Gold Glove caliber player. Funny enough, his outs above average is not great, and his outfield jump is not great. But we've seen him make great plays. We've seen him make excellent throws. But I do think this goes back, Omar, just back to, I don't know if you were listening yet, but goes back to Hap needs to go down in the lineup, and that could be, again, like Mitch said, could be Bellinger going to Ross and saying, hey, I don't want to, I'm comfortable with where I am in the lineup. I'm comfortable with this lineup. And when you've got a guy that's that hot, you cater to his wants and needs. So yes, Ian Happ is an everyday player. I just feel like he's been unlucky. His expected WOBA is super high. What is it right now? xWOBA 345, pretty solid. He's striking out at like his lowest percentage ever, walking at his highest percentage ever. He's just not hitting the ball very hard when he makes contact. I think that's the big thing. His barrel rate is a little down. I don't know. I think we could expect to see Hap figure things out offensively in the last couple months here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Hap he's trending way more in the right direction anyway. And I know it stinks like the other night when he struck out with the bases loaded, but he grinded that at bat. So I'm totally confident. And who else are you going to put out there in left field?
Right.
He's our guy.
You could put Talkman, but I like Talkman more in a fill-in role spot start. I like him in center field when Bellinger, plays first. And Hap's just been locked down in left field. I haven't seen any balls in left field that it felt like he should have gotten to that he didn't. I don't remember, seeing him botch any plays in left field where I was like, that was rough. He's looked smooth all season to me. So
yeah. And he's at 2.2 WAR right now.
Mm-hmm.
And defensively, defensively, WAR doesn't grade out well for outfielders in general. I think he's at -2 defensive, at this moment.
Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah.
It's oh, that's funny. Oh, but he's at 2.2 overall, which is fantastic. And honestly, that's what you expect from him. He's taking a ton of walks right now. But if you've ever listened to him talk on the Compound podcast, they always talk about when he's taking his walks, it means he's seeing the ball well. And he's not getting anything to drive. He's not getting anything to swing at, to
But it's
punch
been
out
all
there.
season. He hasn't had anything good to hit all season. So you're right. They have talked about that. But that would be my counter. You've been walking like this all season, and you haven't gotten anything to drive. It's come on.
Yeah.
That would be my only counterpoint.
True.
You did bring up Dansby. Like, I want to talk a little bit about Dansby before we end, because like reports have come out. And I think an Athletic article came out about him being one of the main guys that went to Jed before the trade deadline. It was about 15 days before the trade deadline, and demanded that Jed not break up this team. And he's like, if you're going to want to create a winning culture, you can't keep doing this. Like, we need to establish this winning culture here and now so that it carries on to the future. And that's just the type, like, he, from the very first press conference with Dansby Swanson, what's he about? Winning. He wants to win at all costs. He doesn't need to be the front liner. He doesn't need to be like, he just wants to win. And that's why we won the offseason and getting the right shortstop. Dansby was the right guy. And the fact that he went to Jed and said, do not break this up, because trust us, trust like the guys. And then you don't know what's going on in the clubhouse, but I guarantee you he's leading, doing a lot of leadership in there of getting this team back and getting them team.
For sure. And
so like, I love watching him play, and I'm so happy that he's a Chicago Cub. I just watched a John Boy Media, Jolly Olive, put out a YouTube video about that the Cubs made the right decision in 2021, selling off and getting rid of Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez, and breaking down all their stats. And if you were to compare the Baez to Dansby Swanson, and that they made the right decision there of getting value for him at the highest, and now you have Dansby there, it's like you have nothing to complain about. It's a great, so go to their YouTube, watch it. It's about 9 minutes long, but it's a great little watch. But I'm so happy that we have Dansby. I loved Baez.
Yeah.
But
it was too boomer bust. Like, Dansby feels like consistently day in, day out, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And more often than not, unfortunately, you were like, Javi's going to swing and miss with a slider 5 feet out of the zone. Like, that's
yeah.
And it like, on that same note, man, it pains me that that's a meme right now, because I still love Javi. Like, that guy gave us so much joy. He was so fun to watch when he was on. It breaks my heart seeing him.
I still say that in the next 2 years, one of those guys is going to come back to the Cubs at some point in the next like 2 to 5 years. One of them is going to come back, and it's not going to be like a starter role. It's just going to be like a pinch hit. It's going to be like a something.
I don't know, because Bryant, it's not going to be Bryant, because Bryant's locked up with that contract, and the Cubs aren't going to trade. He's not going to be a position where they trade for him. Same with Javi. Javi's locked up in that contract. Rizzo signed the extension. I don't know how many years it was.
Maybe not.
But
I could just.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. I do think that it would be Rizzo, like end of his contract, because, dude, we talked about the concussion stuff on last week's episode, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Shame on the Yankees, man, for not figuring that out sooner. Like,
yeah,
that's a really bad look. And I hope that Rizzo comes back, because that dude was on a tear before he got in that collision with Tatis. So I hope that he comes back and you know, his brain heals up and he's able to get back to the level he was playing at.
Well, the Cubs end their next part of their schedule is super easy. If the White Sox, Royals, Tigers, Pirates, and then they end with the Brewers. Like I said earlier in the episode, by the time they play the Brewers at the end of the month, they will be in first place. So hopefully you can quote me on that. Would love to see that happen. This is the stretch, and it's gonna be fun. We are gonna be living and dying on every pitch. It's gonna be fun, even if they don't make the playoffs. It's gonna be fun, but I'm confident in this team, and confident that we have enough. Like we talked about, pitching is gonna be where it's gonna be won or lost. It's gonna come down to, do we have enough horses in the stable, as Jeff likes to say, right?
You bet.
All right. Well, that does it for episode 132. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Dinger Cubs. And yeah, go get yourself some Homage Cubs gear because it's pretty sweet and really comfortable. So go check them out and get some of that. So thanks for listening. This is episode 132 of the Dingers podcast. Go Cubs.
Oh, it seems like a cake episode in like 3.
Yep, definitely
Right?
cake
Yes,
episode.
it should be a cake.
135.
You should get the hot dog T-shirt from Homage and then eat a cake.
Ooh, yeah, there you go. They have a cool Iowa shirt.
They do.
Ooh,
I'll have to check it out.
All right. Go Cubs.
Go
Good night, John Boy.